John is a professional speaker, an award-winning inventor, and a health lifestyle expert. John has spoken for organizations such as the Samsung Forum in Silicon Valley. In addition, he's a presentation skills mentor at a Chicago startup incubator called 1871. John is also a self-professed citizen of the world. You know why? He has addressed audiences across the 6 continents in 18 countries. As an inventor and entrepreneur, he has been featured in publications such as Fast Company, Inc., and the British Vogue magazine. Something fun, John and I share the love for martial arts. I bet you didn't know that. But John is quite at an advanced stage. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor based in Chicago. Now, jiu-jitsu is a form of martial arts. You can Google it later. John holds a degree in economics and speaks 3 languages and has worked in 5 countries. But before we feast our ears on John's message for tonight, let's laugh at some of his most embarrassing moments. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Now, John shared this. One of his most embarrassing moments, way back when he was young, in his childhood, was this. Imagine, during his first day of junior high school, he had his pants pulled off. What a welcome in day 1. From that day, John learned never to wear sweatpants to school again. Sorry, John, I had to laugh. John's go-to source of laughter is memes he received from his friends. Now, after that long introduction, I'm sure you're now familiar and charismatic to hear what John has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you have all been waiting for, well, help me welcome on stage, John Godoy. John, take it away.
Just to give you a heads up, everyone, I may call on you. Wanjiru, I'm going to start with you. Do you want to be seen as a competent professional? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Next question is to Irene. Do you want to get others to buy into your ideas and your recommendations? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Yes? Excellent. This question is for everyone. This is a thumbs up, thumbs down question. Do you want to inspire others through your words and through your ideas? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up. Fantastic. One more question. This is one just to ponder. If you thought yes to each and every one of those ideas, those hopes, my question is, are you ready for the new normal, where your ability to communicate your message, your ideas to others effectively depends significantly on your ability to do so, not just face-to-face anymore, but now online as well? Because that is the direction that the world is going. Siemens, Toshiba, BP, Google, 4 companies, 4 different industries in the last several months, they've announced that they're moving to a hybrid work model. Means some of their employees are going to work from home, some are going to work from the office, some somewhere in between. Even if your organization does not move to hybrid, it's guaranteed that you're going to be working with somebody who does. And so it's so important to be able to learn the skills to effectively get your message across now. My name is John Godoy. I'm a professional speaker, communications coach. And today, I'm going to share with you one very simple strategy that will help you bridge the gap between where you were just 1 year ago, where you're doing predominantly face-to-face presentations, face-to-face meetings, to the new normal, which is face-to-face and online as well, where attention spans are that short, where remote teams and local teams are going to be working hand in hand, and virtual presenting and virtual meetings is never going to go away. Recently, I was working with a bunch of executives for an organization. They were preparing pitches for an internal company pitch competition. And I was brought in to give them feedback for their competition based on what they had put together. And for 2 days, I watched about 12 different practice sessions. And for the most part, I can tell you that they did a really, really good job. They're very, very smart people, very, very intelligent. They did great work. But there was a problem. Moreover, it was a struggle. And it's the same struggle that so many professionals face well into their careers as they get into further and further higher levels of leadership. It's the same struggle that so many people join Toastmasters to help address. And that struggle is that no one trained them in how to effectively sell themselves and their ideas. They received a formal education. However, they never received a training in how to effectively sell themselves and their ideas. I watched their presentations, and their struggles fell into 4 areas. I'm going to list them off to you, and I want you to think if they resonate with you, or maybe they drive you crazy because you see it all the time. The first one is called presentation karaoke, otherwise known as PowerPoint karaoke. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a karaoke bar. You know what karaoke is, right? For those of you who have never been to karaoke before, I'll give you a quick answer to what it is. You go to a club, a restaurant, some room, and there's music playing, there's a screen, there's a song playing, and then there's words that appear at the bottom, and someone just reads those words to you. That's the modern day version of a PowerPoint presentation. It's a read along. It's not very, very effective. The second struggle they faced is they spoke very monotone. They spoke like this. It's kind of like when there's a fan in the background, they're going, that's what happens when someone speaks in a very monotone voice. So I'm going to ask you, Janie. Janie, I'd like for you to tell everybody here your name and how excited you are to be here, but do it as monotone as you possibly can. Go ahead.
My name is Janie Mule. I am so excited to be here.
Thank you very much, Janie. I can feel the excitement in your voice. That is what happens when we speak in a monotone voice. And that's what we consider business talk. That's what professionals think, well, I'm going to be serious. I'm going to sound like a professional, but that's what you end up sounding like. And what monotone does is it kills the emotion in your voice. And a crucial component of getting your message across is emotion. Her message didn't match the tone of her voice. There was a disconnect. The third challenge is that the speaker didn't have any, the presenters didn't have any presence. They were presenting on screen like I am here, but it felt like they were way back here because there was no energy in what they were trying to get across. There was no passion. And if you have no passion, no energy behind what you're trying to get across, especially on the computer, your message is going to fall on deaf ears. And the last challenge they face is what amounts to a data dump. A data dump. And this question is going out to Derek. Derek, what do you think a data dump is?
A data dump is loading a lot of information that you end up losing the main point that you wanted to speak about.
Absolutely. That was concise. Thank you so much. It's when really smart people feel that you need to know all the information that they have to share with you, and they give it to you all at the same time. I want you to visualize this. The moment you begin to speak, the brain of your listener starts to run, right? Run on the spot, run on a treadmill. And the longer you speak, the more information you give them, the more data you put into their head, the quicker their brain gets tired. What happens when you get tired of exercising? You stop. They stop paying attention and they get off, and everything you say from that point on is lost. That's the struggle with a data dump. So I watched these presentations, I gave them feedback, but I wanted to give them one simple strategy that they could apply for the day of their presentation in front of the heads of the company and into their careers going forward. And it's that strategy that I'm going to share with you today. In fact, I was mentioning to Robert and Derek when I first got in here, you have all figured it out. And that strategy is to stand when you present in a formal situation. Stand. Because it does 4 things. Number 1, it creates a sense of executive presence. It creates a contrast between you, the speaker, and everybody else who's on screen who's generally sitting. It's the same thing that you would do in a formal face-to-face presentation when you're in person, but now you do it online and the effect is exactly the same. The second, it increases the strength of your message by about 60%. Why 60%? Because now you've just recruited 60% of your message, which is body language. When you're sitting there talking, all we see is your facial expressions, maybe your intellect. That's about it. You stand up, we can see your body move. It helps get your message across. Second, it helps you move. And so you can use physical space as part of your message. It's very, very powerful. If you think about in the I'm going to say in the wildlife preserve in Kenya, there's a lion chasing a gazelle. If the gazelle doesn't want to get caught, what does it do? It freezes. It doesn't move. That way it's not seen. That's what happens when you speak like this. It's really hard to see you. But the moment you move, the audience, which is the lion, sees you. And they're going to be much more likely to pay attention to you, because that's the big battle, to keep people's attention. The next thing that it does is that it gives you formal practice for when we go back to the normal. If you spend this entire lockdown sitting down, when you have to go back to face-to-face meetings, it's going to feel weird and awkward because you're going to be so used to sitting. So it's better to always stand when you present. You can always sit down if you have to, but the transition back is very difficult. And then the last benefit it gives you is it's healthier for you. It's actually healthier to stand than sit. So given that, I'm going to ask you all to just stand up for a moment, please. Even if I can't see you, I'm going to challenge you to stand up. Some of you already are. So now if you look at the screen, a lot of you are pretty messed up in terms of how you look. We can't see your head, you're looking down. And it's weird, right? So you have to adjust it, kind of like Robert was doing at the beginning. So I'm going to give you 4 simple ideas to help amplify your standing. I'm going to use this mirror. The first is to elevate the platform on which your computer is. So your eye level to the lens. Maybe it's books, maybe it's a stand, maybe it's a platform. The second is put a light at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock to your face, because that way you can feel free to sit down if you like. You don't have to stand. It's your choice, because the light lets us see your facial expressions. The third thing it does, it's a reminder to use your background as part of your message. So when we were face to face, our clothing was our message. We dressed up nicely. Now online, everything on screen is part of your message. Think of the background as an extension of your clothing. It can either add to your message or take away. Think about a president. A president has flags behind them for good reason. It enables them to get their message across, right? If you think about a person who doesn't have a really good background, the background is kind of embarrassing, it ends up on TV. A very simple background is just very, very neutral. And then the last thing I would challenge you to do is wear clothing that makes you feel powerful, because what that does is it transforms how you carry yourself. You'll be able to project better. Think about a policeman or a soldier. Puts on a uniform, they stand taller, they speak a little bit stronger. As I close, I want to leave you with this. The main message I want to get across, actually no, this is not the main message. One of the messages I want to get across was to stand. But ultimately, I wanted to demonstrate to you how to deal with the single biggest challenge that all of you are going to face in this new normal. And that challenge is to keep the audience's attention. And so I used 3 different techniques to keep the audience's attention. And how I did that is threefold. I'm going to ask Irene. Irene, can you guess one of the techniques that I used?
Talking less.
Talking less, perfect. Yeah, that's definitely one I used. For time's sake, I'm going to quickly run through them. The first one is I told you all that I am going to call on you. That's going to keep your attention, because if you're like in a meeting, you don't want to look stupid and not be prepared. The second thing is I called on you by name. If you're on Zoom and you say, does anyone want to answer the question? Oftentimes no one puts up their hand, but if you call on them, they're going to participate. The third thing I did is I had you to change your physicality. I had you raise your hand, I had you stand up, because you have to remember the audience is getting physically tired as well from Zoom fatigue, from sitting all the time. Getting them to move will keep them awake. Ultimately, your goal is to keep your audience's attention. I wish you well as you navigate these challenging times, but come out on the other end ready for the new normal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, guest speaker. We encourage some questions. Do we have timer? Can we get time for some 2 or 3 questions from the members? If you have a question, just type it in the chat, then we can ask our guest speaker for tonight. Otherwise, lovely those were lovely session. I enjoyed the tips. Gladly, I was standing before that. Otherwise, I'll be scrapping things around to get my stand. But yeah, thank you very much for that, John. And I'm not seeing any
Yeah,
chats coming in yet.
yeah,
Over to you, Janie.
Yes, I have a question, though I was the chat master, but there's no question. So, John, my question to you is, for example, where I work, in all the online meetings, everybody's video is off. So the speaker is always the one with the video on. And in most times, actually, even the speaker's video is off. So I'm wondering, in terms of changing people's physicality, and yet their videos are off, how do you navigate around that?
Well, if you get them just simply to click on the buttons, right, to raise their hands, thumbs up, that's one way to change their physicality, because they have to reach and physically do something, right? It doesn't have to be literally have to see them doing it. They're going to be doing it in the background. Other times you're going to have to trust that they're going to do it. You can't control other people's behavior, but simply by saying, let's take a quick break, let's have you stand up for a quick second, let's have you write something in the chat, that's changing physicality. It's about just something to get them to do something other than doing this, listening to you. Because if you don't do that, if their screen is off, not saying anything about anybody here, but they're probably doing something else, right? That's what I would do. They're checking their email, they're doing other things. So you got to keep them, especially if you have something important to say, you got to keep them worried that you're going to call on them, or you might, you might check something.
I have a question. Beatrice here. Hello, can I go on?
Yes, please go on, Beatrice.
Yes, sorry, I'm driving, yes, so we could be doing other things. My question is, I have a pitch to make, a business pitch. I am in the health sector, and the pitch is supposed to take 5 minutes. These are people I don't know, so they're just investors. How would I make that better so that it is engaging? Because it is a mono pitch, sort of nobody's watching me. They'll watch me once they receive the video. Thank you.
What is a mono pitch?
Basically, I'll be talking to myself, hoping I am addressing a crowd, which is not there. They're people I don't know. Yes.
Well, it's exactly the same thing as talking in a Zoom meeting with with nobody's screen on. Imagine that you're talking to one person on the other end of the screen. Take your video camera, start off with a powerful opening like you would do in any presentation, a very powerful way. Like I was talking to a guy yesterday, he was creating a pitch. And he said, oh, my name is Albert, I'm a software engineer. I developed a new artificial software that helps logistics become, but blah, blah, blah. It was really boring. And so we started off by saying, why not say, imagine a software that makes drones smarter. Boom. That small imagine makes the audience think. It gets whoever's listening engaged, and they're more likely going to listen to the rest. And then tell them who you are, tell them your story, but as you tell them the story, include the information that they need, the typical 12 or 13 things that you need in a pitch to get that message across. That's a very powerful way to do it. Oh, the other thing is try, if you have 5 minutes, get your message to be about four minutes. And then record yourself over and over and over and over and over and over again until it's seamless. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay, John, there's another question here from Gabriel. How do you know your tone is monotonous when you are the one speaking?
Your friends will tell you. You have to ask other people. Oh, no, actually, I'll be honest with you. What you do is you got to videotape yourself. Most people never see themselves practice. They only see themselves real time, or they practice in front of a mirror. That doesn't show you how bad you are or how good you are. You have to record yourself and go, is that interesting? And that's entertaining. You do that enough times, then you ask your friends and your peers and you tell them to be honest and ask them their impressions of it. That's one thing. Another thing to think about is when you give a presentation, ask your audience at the end, if you have the opportunity, what do you remember? If they have no idea what the heck you were talking about or don't know what your main point is, you may have been entertaining, but you failed as a presenter, because your objective is not to be entertaining. Your objective is to make sure that they understand your one message. And so that's, as Derek said, keep it very, very simple. What is your message that you want to get across? Don't give a data dump. If you have a lot of information to give, I would challenge you to send that in a document to somebody. not present that live, right?
All right, Jenny, I think that's it from our chat rooms. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for John Godoy. John, thank you very much.